Welcome to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. We're business coaches and retreat hosts for bold, purpose-driven women who are ready to build businesses that actually fit their lives.
This podcast is for the authentic, rebellious entrepreneur who's done playing by everyone else's rules. We know what works because we've lived it, coached it, and savored the journey.
Join us for real talk on business, life, and everything in between.
Hello, and welcome back to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy, and I'm here with Krystal. And today we're going to talk to about something that is really, I think, critically important when we're talking about the season of reinvention. And that is operationalizing our values. And wow, that sounds like an absolute mouthful, if I do say so myself. Because we just had to edit out the fact that I couldn't actually say operationalize.
Well, there's that. And it is a mouthful. And it also sounds intimidating at the start of it because I think this came about via a Voxer conversation with us, and we were talking about goals for the year.
And you were knee deep in Brene Brown.
I still am, but I was knee deep in some Brene Brown podcasts and reading her book, Strong Ground. And I asked the question, how do we operationalize our values? Like, how are our values operational in Serendipitous Rebel?
Yeah.
Which also, I want to precede that with the fact that I now know for sure they are. And I kind of had a feeling they were, but I think it's really important as a business to, one, identify what are your values as a business, and then to really ask, how are they showing up in action in your business?
Exactly. And just to rewind a little bit, when we talk about operationalizing our values, what we really mean is, how do we take what we say matters to us, our values, and make it show up in our calendars, our boundaries, our business model, our daily choices, basically every part of our business life. And that's to say we probably also have personal values, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. You know, it's like values are not a particularly necessarily pretty word.
No.
Words. It's not like we're talking about branding, but values are really that critical piece of, we use them to help us make decisions, and they help us reduce decision fatigue because it either matches or it doesn't.
When I think about alignment in businesses that really feel aligned, I think it really does start with, are you operating in your values? And what I think is also unique about this decision as well, to go through this exercise, is that we are partners. And when you are blending leadership roles in a business, it's really important, if you work in a partnership or even if you work in a team, one, work as a team and you are the leader of that team, these need to be very clear to the rest of your organization and the rest of your team. And I think the whole reason behind us wanting to check in, identify what are our values and how are they operational, is to make sure you and I stay on the same page as well as the co-leaders of Serendipitous Rebel. And surprise, surprise, again, I don't think they were not out of alignment. I think we hit really, really close to all of this, but I found it to be such an incredibly important exercise for us to do One, again, there's that gut check, make sure we're on the same page. There's like a logistic part of this, but there was a huge grounding piece of this for me that
Mm-hmm.
like a bonding thing for
Mm-hmm.
us to do this together that I walked away feeling just so good about us and our relationship and our business and everything else after this. It kind of gave a renewed sense of energy. And we did this at the end of December. It was such a nice way to end the year.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Though I will add that it was a bit, and we're going to walk through the exercise.
Mhm.
So, but there was a little bit of frustration in the beginning because we did a slightly different exercise than people typically do. Typically, it's like write down your top 5 values.
Mhm.
And that one is, it's so interesting because I have found that there's sort of like a problem with that. And what exactly do I mean by that? That, you know, most people have values. And if you say, and I'm going to actually, well, people say, I value freedom, I value family, I value health. I actually think those are kind of decorative.
Yeah.
And yeah, and even when you have like authors and really experts, and I'm not picking on Brene Brown in any way, shape, or form,
Oh
because
no, we
I
would
actually
never besmirch
never,
the name of Mama Brene.
no, no, and so I'm not actually talking, but there's other experts who are like, sit down and give me your top 5 list. And it's decorative, and to some extent it's performative. I'm supposed to say that I value blah 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 blah. Um, but there's a real, I think there's a really big frustration with that, especially when we talk about women who are in, especially in this kind of messy middle, or actually really any phase of messiness in life. And it's like, okay, I value peace. Yeah, but my life is so chaotic. How does that fit in?
Yeah, how's
Or
that operational?
exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. Hey,
Mhm.
I value connection, but I don't have the time or the energy to text people, or even oh my god, pick up the phone and call someone. Ooh. Or I value growth, or whatever it is. There, exactly. How do you operationalize
How do
these
you make them
things?
operational? Let's
Exactly.
just say that.
Just whoa, yeah.
Let's make them
Yeah,
operational is not a verb anyway. I don't know why people trying to turn it into one. So yes,
yeah,
you make it operational. How about that?
yeah. And because we're so buried under obligations that we can't even we can't even hear ourselves think. So I think that what we try to do is um is look at things in a different way. And
Yeah.
that if and really the bottom line is, if your values are real, and when we talk about operationalize, we're really talking about, how do you measure these things? How do you measure them in your business? And it's not meant to be like rigid or perfect, but it's the ability to look at something and say the needle moves forward, the needle can move backwards, all those sorts of things. It's not theoretical.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of looking at not inventing aspirational values.
Hmm.
I would liken it to when
Yes.
we identify strengths, okay? When we
Yes.
work with clients, we work with via character strengths. So we rank 24 character strengths that everyone has in some capacity. And you have your tops and then you have your lessers, right?
Hmm.
It's we can't be 100%
Every
exceptional at all
yes.
24, right? And I think the same thing goes with values. And when
Hmm.
we talk about values, we made the decision to really whittle them down to two. And how are these two showing up in our business? And then the other side of that is it's what do you consistently do, not what you say. And
Yes.
I think that,
Yes.
again, this just comes back to the alignment piece of values. I think when people feel out of alignment or they feel off in their business or disenchanted with their business or just
Mm-hmm.
want to burn it all down,
Mm-hmm.
chances are your values are not operational
Mm-hmm.
in your business. And when we look at clients and we create strategy for clients,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is one of the things we do look at. In addition to strengths, we also look at values. We look at the bigger picture, again, that holistic piece of businesses, because it really takes you from like, what's your starting line and what's your finish line? And I think your values are the how to mechanism to get
Mm-hmm.
from point A to point B. And I think that when people are operating outside of those things, it's usually because they're doing something, they're following a blueprint that somebody else has given them, or they are filling their calendar and their life up with a lot of shoulds and not with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what's actually internally driving. So, again, I think it's just, when we identified the values that actually guide how Serendipitous Rebel operates, I think to your point, you're documenting what's always true. So let's start. Wendy, can you take us through a little bit of the exercise
Sure.
that we
Sure. So we started off by looking at how do you figure out what these values are that we can operationalize. Sorry.
did? Yeah.
Yeah. What are our operational values? And so what we started off by doing is actually going back individually and coming up with a list of 10 real moments. These were real decisions that each of us made from the last year that were that caused tension or were a hard call.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, something maybe, well, actually, I mean, um, I can actually read off of my list because what I actually did is take that and put it on a little piece of paper that is now in my, and I'm showing this to Crystal. You all can't see it, but it's a little piece of paper that's now sits in my planner for the year at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, so I have a reference. But for me, and I'll just share a couple of them, is that we did webinars to promote our mastermind cruises. And this was something that was very much for me out of my wheelhouse. And we did them, I don't know that, well, I think we did them every week for at least 6 weeks, maybe even
Oh,
more than that.
longer. It was about 4 months we did
Oh
them.
God, see, six to me, it was like, yeah. And we did them almost every week.
Did them every week.
We
Yeah.
did them every week. Well, see, this is where we're still having
I
issues
mean, it's
because
possible we blocked it out some of the weeks because they were
yes,
really exhausting.
yeah. And for me, this was a hard call because it was something that I was not super comfortable with.
Mhm.
And I had to figure out how I internally could spin it that I could show up and do this. And so that was one thing. And then the other thing was we did not publish our Savor journal slash ebook. And that was something else that it was like I had to sit with that and the why of it, the how of it, all of those things. It was looking at the effectiveness of our weekly social media and email, our communications to our, I guess you could say, to our warm audience. And we have a quiz that we did not launch. So it was really looking at, and now that I think about it, would have been interesting to have a similar list of what was just easy. But
Yeah, I thought
this,
about that actually later after we had kind of gone through this, but I think there was something about getting really vulnerable
yes.
and
And this
and
was hard.
well, and it was, I want to share with everybody too. I think it was hard for me as well because it was one thing for me to write the list internally to myself. It's another to have to share it with someone else.
Oh, yes.
And in creating this list, I was really resistant to even starting it, and I'll be honest. And then it was hard to get to 10. I still don't think there's 10. I think I'm looking at our thing right now. There's 9 of them there because I really struggled to get to 10 things. And it was the same. And my list was very similar. We did not sell out the mastermind. We had a lower enrollment last year than what we were shooting for. We had multiple iterations of a low ticket offer that we had tried out earlier that year that was like very mentally draining. We changed a lot the pacing of our business last year, really trying to protect time. And we even slowed down. I slowed down a lot of done for you work last year. That was a tough decision. Just being very selective about who we were working with and who we were not. And saying no to opportunities or offers because they were out of alignment, even though it meant saying no to money in the immediacy of things. And that was really a struggle to me. And I think that when you sit through all of that, and I'm gonna let you go through the next step of all of this, it was really vulnerable because again, I think it's easy for us to go back, and to your point, it's easy to go back and do the top 10 list of things we loved. And I think for balance, that's probably a good idea to still throw that in there. But to be like very real with the 10 things that didn't go well, or the 10 things I was disappointed in, or the 10 things that I wish we had done differently. It's twofold. It's one, for me, the responsibility that I had in those things not going well, but then also never wanting you to feel like I held you responsible for any of that in the moment, because it was all my own internal. That list for me was my own internal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, very much so, because that was the one thing. It's like, and I will preface this to say that we are very fortunate that we have each other to bounce this off of, that we trust each other enough that there is no residual, like, why wasn't this done? That never even entered into it.
No.
And it's interesting, and not necessarily like tooting our own horn, but we do work with clients on exercises similar to this, where, to be perfectly honest, if I was a solopreneur and I was asked to do something like this, I would be sitting in my shit for a long time. I would probably
Yeah.
be. So I think that this is a great exercise to do if you have like a sounding board, or to do it in the company of a sounding board. Yeah.
Yeah. And if
And
you don't have a sounding board, we are opening up some slots for strategy sessions
right,
in the next
exactly.
month.
We are
But I think it is
always
something. Well, and
happy.
so I want you to take people through the next step of this.
Yes.
So the first step is you list 10 real decisions. And again,
Right.
not beliefs, because I think
No.
it's not beliefs that you have about yourself or your business.
No, absolutely
Like
not. And no, and
tactical
it's not
decisions,
values.
right?
Yes.
Tactical
Yes. Like,
decisions that you made in
yes.
your business that were hard, or tactical moments in your
Yeah.
business with a
Yeah.
launch that didn't go the way you wanted it
You
to.
know, did you not use, like, also on my list was not using Substack and LinkedIn. I had every intention of doing that. And it was like, So the next step is you take each of these real moments and you answer one question with each of it. What were you protecting here? And it could be such as time, energy, trust, depth, relationships, autonomy, sustainability, credibility, emotional safety. And you're going to assign one of these protections to it. So for example, for me, the webinars for cruise promotion was very much my own energy. It was a very, it was an energy, it was a bit of an energy suck, at least in the beginning. Towards, as we progressed, there was more curiosity and more excitement of how do we make this better. But really, it became an energy thing. And it's like, oh wow, do I want, do I and can I continue to show up for this? um and
Yeah.
then, like, yeah.
So
Sorry.
for me, that one, I was depth. I was
Okay.
protecting depth because I had also said the webinars were really hard for me, but for different
Mhm.
reasons.
Right.
For you, it was showing up and giving your energy to that every week, and they were very energetically draining. It's hard
Yeah.
to get up and do a weekly live webinar.
Mm-hmm.
It is that is not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who's out there trying to tell you that's you just do a weekly webinar. That's hard. That's hard
Yeah.
to show up and be be perky and all the things
Yes.
through that. And sometimes you show up to nobody, and then sometimes you show up to people, and you have the drop offs and the other thing. There's a lot of things going
Yep.
on in a live webinar. For me, it was depth, which is when we defined depth as meaningful transformation over surface level results. And I
Yes.
think that I really struggled with the webinar at the beginning in writing the webinar because I did not. We believe in immersive experiences over quick fixes and serendipitous travel always.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate showing up at giving away my time for something that didn't give it me anything in return. So we were over delivering in that webinar, especially in the early iterations of it. It was so long.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of work to trim it up over time. But I think in that fear of not giving enough, not going deep
Mm-hmm.
enough, it made those first iterations of the webinar not go the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting, because one of the things the next thing you do is you're looking at this and you're trying to see where you have repeats or things that appear multiple times. And for us, depth really was huge. It
Mm-hmm.
was depth, it was sustainability, and it was, I believe it was energy. Really.
Yeah, there were five that showed up consistently here. It was depth, energy, relationships, trust,
Oh,
sustainability.
yeah. So from there, when you're looking at those, you're saying, oh, wait a second. This is not by accident. This is very much an operational value. This is what we're leaning towards. And so from there, you sit down and you're turning, so then you're turning a pattern into a clear value statement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what that would mean is, as you just said, we choose depth over scale. That
Mm-hmm.
is unbelievably important for us. We choose sustainability over speed. Those sorts of things. And when you're thinking about it, we choose what over what. And
Mm-hmm.
if it comes down to it, if you can't figure out a choice, if you're forced to choose and that doesn't come up ahead, it's not a value.
Yeah. And I think that if you can say those things out loud and feel good about them, that's
Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah. Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And when we have to choose, we choose relationships over everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And, we chose depth over surface level. Like you said, we choose time over burnout or
Mm-hmm.
urgency,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. And yes, that absolutely shows up in the way we operate in both the good and the bad. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what's
Yes.
really important of this is that I think of that James Clear, if you don't rise to the level of your aspirations, you fall at the level of your system.
Yes.
And it I think that's so true. This is how your values show up. So I think that's why looking at the 10 things that went wrong
Mm-hmm.
is so important over the 10 things that went right.
Well, definitely. And actually, at this point, you're only trying to use those as examples to help you pair it with
Mm-hmm.
an operational value.
Yeah.
So you don't even think about what it is, what it was. And now it's like, okay. And then, the next thing is I think a really is actually what you were just saying, is that you're actually doing a reality check. So for every one of those values, you're saying, would we lose money for this?
Hmm.
Would we turn down a high visibility opportunity for this? Would we slow growth or delay a launch for this? So, when it comes to energy, depth, sustainability, relationships, what was the fifth one?
Let's see, credibility.
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 Yes, yes. And the answer to that is, would we lose money for this? Hell yes. Would we turn down a high visibility opportunity for this? Yeah. Would we slow growth or delay a launch for this? Well, we have.
Hmm.
So, really, if you aren't saying yes across the board, then really you remove it from the list.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so here then you have, 3 to 5 behaviors that prove, oh, okay. So sorry. Then for each one, you write 3 to 5 behaviors that prove it's real. So for
Mhm.
example, we choose sustainability over speed. What does this mean? We build in extra integration time. We limit capacity. We don't stack our launches. Oh God, that sounds horrific. And
No.
we also say no to urgency driven marketing. Okay.
Yeah,
This
we
doesn't
don't do a lot of closed cart stuff. Yeah.
no, no, because it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I
But
agree.
it doesn't mean we don't create our own pressure to achieve and accomplish. It's there. Um, wait, yeah, this also means that we don't overbook ourselves. We have our own internal, and I guess pressure isn't the right word. We have our own internal drive.
Yes.
Yes. And we're not running on someone else's pressure wheel. And we also don't run offers, for example, without support structures. I always would laugh when I had coaches in previous iterations who were like, just launch it and figure out how to do it afterwards. That makes my flesh crawl, actually. I can't.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, this is a whole different. That's all going away. Can't do
yeah,
it anymore. I
yeah.
that's just. I think that that's such an outdated strat. Like that's such an
It
outdated practice.
is.
But yeah, I think
Yes.
that. But I guarantee you, someone out there is still teaching it, and maybe there's this very small percentage of people that probably might work for.
Hmm.
I never say never because golly,
Well,
great
but
big world
for
out
for
there. But
us,
for us, God
no,
no,
no, no,
terrible
no, no, no,
idea, terrible.
no,
Yeah.
no. So okay, so we're taking these 5 values and we are asking ourselves, if we removed, say, energy or depth or relationships, would serendipitous rebel still feel like the serendipitous rebel we want?
No, it would not.
No,
And
exactly.
well, and more importantly, if it was anything but those things, would it feel like serendipitous rebels? So there's nothing else that we could add that wouldn't take us completely off course or out of alignment.
Yeah, and I do think, if we decided to go from, oh, well, let's just burn ourselves, let's go the opposite of energy and just really burn ourselves for the next quarter to see, oh God, that just sounds, no, thank you. You know,
Well,
and
it's not what we do this for.
no,
I could go
no,
work at 9 to 5 and feel like shit if I
yeah,
wanted to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so with all of those in mind, the next thing is to sit down and write in as plain English as plain language as you can, whatever language you're writing in. And looking at your real decisions, you start looking at how these values become your decision filter. So we talk about, we talk about let's see, you have these values And okay, so let me think this through for a second. Sorry, Jake, because we actually skipped ahead. And then we created our mission and our vision. So I'm still thinking this through. We didn't actually finish the exercise.
No, we kind of did. So
Oh,
I think, all right, so here, let
okay.
me take
So
it over. Let me take it
okay,
over.
so yeah, that's good. So Jake, I'm now passing the microphone.
Okay, so what you come down to it after you kind of define what that looks like in action, you start to see an overarching theme here. Okay. And I think then at that point, we had created this exercise and you said limit to 5 max. I think you really do whittle down to 2 because I think what you start to see as you're looking at these values, one, it becomes very clear that there's an overarching umbrella to the 5, right? And then I think it's really important in that moment then to ask yourself, is there something here missing that we didn't articulate earlier on in the exercise? And I think that's what showed up for us. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to skip kind of to the end and kind of walk it back a little bit. So we really kind of got to the end of this exercise and we're like, okay, we have talked about depth and relationships and we talked about wanting time. And so it kind of watered down to like independence and kindness and other things that we wanted, right? And I think then at that point, this is where that if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no thing.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky and I really kind of got to these like surface level buzzwords, right? And we kept saying, you know what? That's just not quite it. Again, it has to be plain language backed by real decisions and clear behaviors articulated in your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think just as much as and again, this is why this exercise is so important because I think it's not just a matter of asking like I want to be kind and I want to have community as a value, right? How's that actually showing up? And
Mm-hmm.
so we ended up whittling it down at the very end of it to say that the foundational values of Serendipitous Rebel were integrity and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Found those two things to be the overarching umbrella to all of these things that we were talking about.
Well, exactly. And it was because for integrity, for example, you must have credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And credibility and integrity are actually, to a large extent, one and the same, at least in my mind. And they're also something that must be visible always, which immediately means it ties into sustainability. If you don't have integrity, you're not going to have long-term alignment. You're actually not going to have a long-term business. And it also fits in with even some of the values that we didn't have as our final 5. But nonetheless, this was such an important thing that it could be found in everything.
Yeah,
And
it was.
and
Yes.
yeah.
That's what kind of to me spoke to depth. It spoke to, um, just that idea that we don't value urgency. We value honesty.
Mhm.
Um, we value alignment.
Yeah.
Value
Yeah.
alignment in what we do. And we design offers not because they will sell, because I could make 1,000 things that could just sell, but we design offers and design programs that we fundamentally believe in. Again,
Hmm.
it's just, I think that when it came down to, again, whittling down these two things, and then the next one was kindness, right? And that has been such a big theme for us for a long time
Oh yeah. I
in what we
mean,
do.
yeah. And the thing about kindness that I think is really interesting is
Mhm.
that people, when you say kindness, people think that means being nice
Yeah.
or being permissive or
Mhm.
even avoiding hard conversations. But really, when we're talking about is leadership kindness, to a
Mhm.
large extent, which of course means that you're a nice person, but it also means that you're strong and you're grounded. And oh my gosh, you are clear in your conversations.
Mhm.
And this is such an important and critical piece. And I think for both of us, when we talk about relationships, when we talk about depth, it's we're not talking about being soft. It's actually kindness is how you hold people while you're staying in truth.
Yeah, 'cause I
It's
think
a
it's a kindness.
humane strength. Yes.
Yeah, because, and you know, the best example I could use for that is if a client were to come with us struggling with a launch, if we were nice, we would say, "Hey, you just did a great job. Good. You did everything that you could do." Kindness
Mm-hmm.
is actually looking and evaluating, going, you know what, you did these things really well. This is probably where it went wrong. And like, how can
Mm-hmm.
you fix that going forward?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, right? It's humane, but it's looking at things again from a holistic picture of things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also showing up. And what I really liked about it, when we did finally whittle down to these two things, we're not going to take you through, because this was hours on the phone, guys. Like, we're not going to take you through every nitty gritty
Yeah.
piece of this, but you know, when we took, you know, the final five and we were whittling down and we were like, all right, how is this going to fit? How does this go forward? How do we take this moving forward
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is actually, it's a value, it's not a belief. It's a value, not an action. I mean, like, there is, because there is a bit of a difference here. How are these going to lead? And I love, Wendy always uses the analogy of, I'm going down a river and these are my banks and these
Mm-hmm.
are my left and right limits. So I still have the opportunity to kind of flow back and forth in the river, but these are my banks. These are going to be the thing that when the rubber meets the road, these are going to be our drivers behind some decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Integrity and kindness 100% show up every single time. And I think that when we look back at the things that went wrong, I can absolutely see how integrity and kindness showed up in those moments.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can see how they showed up when things went right. And I think when you looked at hard decisions, like saying
Mm-hmm.
no to opportunities or no to things, or I'm not going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes when we said we did, like we've extended payment plans to people, we've extended things, you know, there's exceptions, right? Because we were able to say this allows us to live with an integrity and kindness. And then there were times where we had to say, no, we can't do that, because again, integrity and kindness, and
Yeah.
hold boundaries and hold people accountable for things. And I feel good about that. And I feel like that has existed from the beginning of Serendipity
Yeah.
Travel.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. To say that we have a commitment to real, livable change,
Mhm.
for our, our world, our immediate world, is really, I mean, when I think about integrity, that's what, we don't promise fast results.
Mhm.
We we commit we are making a commitment to helping women really make real livable changes, and as we say, that allow them to savor their lives. And for kindness, I also actually think of it as much as creating a space where women feel safe, just like we felt safe enough to do this it really was a vulnerability exercise, but to do this exercise, we want to, and think have created a world where women feel safe enough that they can slow down, tell, and well, to share their truth, and that also allows them to savor their lives. And I'm very proud of this, like ridiculously proud.
Same.
And yeah, and yeah, it's like happy new year.
Yeah. So I think the challenge that I would give listeners then from here is to kind of walk through this list, and we'll put the steps in the show notes so you can sort of follow along with it. It'll be in the accompanying blog post, of course. But I think that being able to walk through and ask these questions and give yourself some time to sit with it, because it
Mhm.
is a little bit of a reflection exercise of like sitting it's sitting in the shit a little bit, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's the subsequent things that kind of take you out of it.
Yes.
And I think to Wendy's point earlier on, having a sounding board for these things is so important because
Mm-hmm.
I think that there can be a lot of shame when we're trying to reflect
Yes.
on things that went wrong. And I know that's what showed up for me the first time we did this. And so I think having a community and having, you know, obviously I have Wendy in my Voxers all the time. If you're in our mastermind group, you have that Voxer group and to bounce things off of. If you're not, you should be in there because hello. But it's having a group of people that you can actually say, you know what? I didn't sell as much of this thing as I wanted to last year. And I think that there's something wrong with me. And that's messing with my head because that messes with your confidence. That messes with all kinds of stuff going forward.
Yep.
I think being able to have a sounding board to pull you out of that to say, look, your offer is valid and is amazing. Let's look at some of your other parts of your offer or your traffic or your funnel that
Mm-hmm.
maybe is broken because like something is, if it didn't sell, something is broken. So let's figure out what that is in a very rational way and figure out, okay, how are you getting in your own way of that? And I think having those conversations on the back end, that's such a big piece of like what happens at our mastermind retreat, right? Because I think a lot of times, and it's almost 99% of the time, it's visibility and traffic, guys. It's just going to give you the secret right there, visibility and traffic. But the answer to that is I don't have the time or the energy or the confidence to show up in socials the way I want to. All right, what are other options that we can do? It's thinking through all of those pieces. How can we get over those hurdles? Because we're all in. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
having that collective community to help pull you.
Well, and I think also having that community also really lets you go deeper when, to go deeper and to really see things clear. It's like, it's always easier when someone else is holding up the mirror in front of you and that allowing you to see yourself. So, yeah, I really hope that this episode gives all of you, something real. This is definitely not meant to be a fluffy fluff. And thank you for Krystal for suggesting that we actually articulate the exercise that we did. I think it's so important. Values aren't meant to be motivational quotes. They're meant to be an integral part and the starting point of our operating systems. And, hopefully that's something that you take away with. And hey, if you loved this episode, take a screenshot and tag us on Instagram.
Yeah, we would love to hear that.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, until next time. Yeah, I do hope you guys do this because it's so it was really energizing. It really was energizing for me.
Yes.
Taking it
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, once you move through it and you get past the first part of it, which is you want me to list shit that went wrong. Well, it's not necessarily 100%. It's what tough calls did you have to make? What moments did you really have to pause and think? And
Well,
that's business. That's life.
yup.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, until next week, thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
Only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about our upcoming masterminding opportunities on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.
Hey, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.